Touchdown, West Philly!
A chance for the Chargers, and they score!
In the sun, Fuzzy again!
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Behind the Curtain with the Granite Theater. We are a couple minutes late today because I thought there were more people coming.
My presence doesn't take up the whole room.
No, it does. It does. But I'm sitting here like I don't know. You saw my computer was like halfway closed because I had a wide shot going. I had the mics up for over here. I was like, because Chris came in and said that there was going to be a couple people, and I was like, yeah, sure, that makes sense. And then so I'm like, okay, we're going, and then you're like, should we go? And I'm like, we could have gone this entire anyway. Welcome to Behind the Curtain. Did I say Beyond before? No, I think I said
so.
Behind.
You were correct.
Welcome to Beyond the Curtain, Behind the Curtain, with the Granite Theater. Today we are here, as always, with Artistic Director Nicole DiMattei, as in DiMattei, and Chris Maxwell, as in the coffee. Oh, it's Maxwell House, right?
Yes.
The coffee. And
Maxwell Silverhammer, depending what generation you're from.
I am from
An old Beatles song.
Oh,
okay.
So bad at pop.
Can you possibly bring the microphone more towards your...
No, we didn't even do a sound check.
I know. Well, I was expecting...
Yes, I can do that. How's that?
You're amazing.
Okay.
I can tell he's a fantastic actor already. So we are... let's get the laughs out now. Because we're talking about the Laramie Project. Although there are light moments, obviously, in the Laramie Project. And let's get into it.
Yes, I think that's funny because when we had the audience with the
Backstage pass.
the backstage pass, that I think that for us actors dealing with this serious topic, that we don't really know when the funny moments are going to be, because we're reading from the script, and you do it over and over again in rehearsal, and then when you do it in front of an audience, then you do find there are some humor points in it.
It was so. This past Wednesday we had our backstage pass open rehearsal. Ooh, my voice just decided to go out. Excuse me. And I just got back from Pennsylvania, so like,
Can I
allergies?
quick?
Yeah.
I last night my voice did that. It decided to go out. I was Dave, my best friend and producing partner, was about to call me, and I said to Jackie, yeah, Dave's about to call, but I went, yeah, Dave's about to call. and then I when that happens to me, I like go like, I need to get my voice back to normal as quickly as possible. So I went like red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow. And she was like, are you doing vocal warm-ups for your call with your friend?
Oh my God.
And I was like, no, I'm not doing vocal warm-ups for my call with my friend. I have a panic attack disorder. And when my voice doesn't sound right, I need to make it go back to normal. And she's like, do your thing, dude. And walked out of the room. Anyway, so Laramie Project.
Anyway,
you just had your
Laramie
backstage
Project.
pass.
So on Wednesday we had the backstage pass, and that's an open rehearsal. I know I've talked about this before. It was wonderfully attended.
It really was.
It really was. With actually, I want to say half of the audience had never been to the theater before, and we had that with Allergist Wife too. A few people had not even been to the theater before, which is really interesting to come see a backstage pass open rehearsal before you've actually seen a show we put on. Because the polish is not there, right? There were no lights, no costumes. Actors were still calling lines. The director is still staging the scenes. And this moment came up where one of the characters, each of them play a number of characters. There are 14 actors in the show, but only 60 characters, right? And so one of the actors was playing another character, and the director laughed. A few of the actors laughed, and this one person in the audience was kind of like, why are you laughing? This is not a funny moment. And Brad brought up the very good point that he was laughing at the actor finding the character. It is this like really interesting thing where in rehearsals we get to know the people so well that when they make a choice that's different, it's funny. And it might not be a funny moment of the show, but it is funny. And then you get to this point where you're like, I have to figure out when this show is funny and and differentiate from when, as the director, I just think this person is being funny, right? But the very good point got brought up about the show being so heavy. And again, there are light moments in the show that the actors need to find some release, especially in the rehearsal process. So that's a great laugh at
Yeah,
us.
and I think of the 60 characters, it's important to point out that these are real life people. These are not like made up characters in a made up story. That the plot of the play, so to speak, is basically comes from interviews with the residents of Laramie, Wyoming. So the people that are the characters are all real life people. So that we are, as actors, we are either making choices based on our impression of who this real person is, but whether it's accurate or not. And if I'm not mistaken, did that woman in the audience know that person, or was that the woman who was from that area, knew the area?
I think she was just very familiar with the event.
Okay.
And had seen it. It was Tiffany, a media person. Oh my gosh, what am I? A news reporter.
A news reporter. Right.
And she had seen the actual videos of her performing, if not performing, actually speaking. And I think the show hit really close to home for her.
Yeah.
And so she was taking it very serious.
Right.
Whereas again, I think the cast and the director did a great job of explaining why it was why laughter, and especially in rehearsal, is okay, and in the show itself, because life is funny.
Yeah, and I think it's going to happen. And for such a serious topic, the concept of finding humor in it, some of the dialogue is it's funny. There are some things that people say that will be funny. And from the actor's perspective, we don't know what they're going to laugh at.
Right.
And I don't think anybody is delivering any lines with the intent of eliciting laughter like you would in a comedy.
Right.
People are delivering the lines as the real character, but these are real people and what they said in real life. And some of it may come across funny.
Steve Spartano said Chris has a few unintentionally funny moments as Doc O'Connor.
And and that is true. And from my personal perspective, I am not delivering any of those lines as if they're comedy lines.
Right.
That's the best anyway. Yeah. Like even in a comedy, I don't want to see people delivering like, that's there's a great line in the show in a very mediocre show, TV show called Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, which was an Aaron Sorkin show about the backstage of an SNL type show. And Matthew Perry plays the head writer, and he says to Sarah Paulson, she's like, I got a laugh at the dress rehearsal at the dinner scene, but I didn't get a laugh at the show. Why? And he said, well, because you asked for the laugh in the show. You asked for the laugh. And she said, well, what did I do at the table at rehearsal? And he said, you asked for the salt. You asked for the and he meant literally, that wasn't like a euphemism or anything. Yeah, no, he literally meant you just asked for the salt earnestly. You earnestly played that moment, and so you got a laugh. The second time you knew that it was coming and you knew that you were going to get a laugh, so you asked for the laugh, and then you lost the realism of that moment and it became not funny. So I never want to see, very rarely, unless it's incredibly shticky on purpose and campy, I don't want to see people play a line for comedy. Like playing it real is what makes it fun and funny most of the time.
I feel like I end up talking about that a lot with every cast I work with. It's trust yourself. If this gets a laugh, don't expect the laugh the next night, and don't push to get it. The other really funny thing is we see it here. I saw it in New York, but you see it here pretty extensively. Friday night audiences are generally just the best audiences. Saturday is terrible. They are exhausted. They overpacked their day off. And then they were like, ah, dang, I bought tickets to a theater. Now I have to go when I really just want to curl up on the couch. And so that is the energy they give. And then Sunday is a bit of a hit or miss because of, it's generally like an older crowd and depending on how they feel about the show. But Friday night is the night. And what happens in our shows is that we open on Friday. So not only is it a great energy, it's a lot of friends and family who want to come see the opening. So that's I love opening night. I always want to see opening night because the energy from the actors is amazing. The energy from the audience is because they're just cheerleaders. Everyone in the audience is cheerleaders, and so it's just magical. And like the actors go home, they're like, this show is the best ever. And then they get a Saturday night audience and they're like, what did I do? and the problem is if they don't get that first laugh, the tendency is to push and, ask for the laughs. And then the delivery just isn't where it should be. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that was a long way around the fact that there is comedy.
There is comedy in a very serious show.
But I will say in the very serious
topic, I should say.
What was nice in this process, because for me, I love the process of beginning to end, like when you right from the audition. Well, first of all, it goes even further when you see what's coming up for the season and say, I can audition for this, and this. That's very exciting. But when you see a title like the Laramie Project and the opportunity to be doing such a serious piece of drama was very exciting. But once we started the rehearsal process, we spent the first couple of rehearsals doing what they call table reads and like analysis of the characters. And we spent a significant amount of time dealing with the subject matter that's the very difficult subject matter to deal with. And each of us in the cast got to, tell our own little stories. For some of us in the cast, I'm old enough to remember when it happened, but there are other cast members who were not even born. Yeah, they weren't even born. So for them, this is a historic kind of document. But for me, I remember watching it on the news, and I remember the kind of like the vigil in between the time he was found and when he actually died.
Yeah. Same, which I now realize means I'm old. Thank you for that.
Experienced.
I was 11.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely.
But seeing it in the eyes of an 11-year-old is different than seeing it in the eyes of a 30-something-year-old gay man who's lived through this kind of stuff. And so it's a very different story for people depending on where they were at the time when it happened.
And that's sort of the point of the show itself, right? Like it's these people in the community talking about the community, talking about the situation, talking about all of those things. So it's looking at life through all of these different lenses. And yeah, it's a very different lens to experience something like this and to watch this unfold and watch the news of it as a 30-something-year-old gay man versus an 11-year-old boy. And that's huge. And so that's why I think like the surprising laughter aside for the backstage pass, like I feel like watching the rehearsal process of this and those deep dive conversations about the material and about the moments and about all of those things between the cast and the director and everybody involved in the show, like I feel like that's almost as fascinating to me as the show itself, which is interesting because you don't get that in a lot of I don't really care about what people's thoughts on Guys and Dolls is that much, even though the show itself is spectacular. Like the conversations around it, and who really cares about all of our thoughts about 1940s gangster New York? Versus this, it's like it's very it's an emotional. I would imagine it's an emotional rehearsal process and learning your lines and
Oh.
knowing the.
Absolutely. I mean, when we have to listen to Dennis Shepard's monologue in a rehearsal, it touches us every time. But one of the important things about this particular play is that it doesn't answer all of the questions. When you think about what happened to Matthew Shepard, and if you hear these different perspectives from the different characters in Laramie at the time, it doesn't answer every question. So you can still walk out of seeing the play and feeling like what really happened there. And so for the audience is going to be challenged,
Right.
because there may be preconceived ideas, and I'm sure that the audience is going to learn facts that even if they know of the story, you're going to get some more in-depth personal stuff from each of the characters, and it will shape your opinion. It will shape your emotions. But the central question about like what happened to Matthew, how and why was he killed, I'm not so sure it gets answered.
Right. And I
concretely.
honestly don't think it was supposed to be
Yeah.
answered. It's not a documentary on Matthew. It's almost a documentary on the people of the town and the event and how it shaped, their reaction,
Right, because you had what was going on at the time is that you had news coverage, and who's to say whether the news was slanted or not. I know from my perspective it was clearly like this gay bashing.
Really.
And when you read through the testimony in the court, and when you listen to the stories from the perspectives of all of the characters in this play, you can come away feeling like, well, maybe it was just a robbery. Maybe so that and he happened to be gay, and maybe they picked on him because he was vulnerable. But there was a significant narrative within the gay community at the time that this was a heterosexual gay bashing, and it was also almost like a commentary about that part of the country,
Right.
and that it was not a safe place for a gay person to be.
Yeah, cowboy boots.
Right.
What's really interesting to me is, and again, I wasn't aware in 98. Like, I didn't grow up in a town that was familiar with this event. I didn't really watch the news. And I'm interested. You just said that they were like, you don't know if it was slanted. I said something the other day. I was telling my husband something that I saw, a news thing that I saw, and I was just dumbfounded by the fact that this was true. And the second it came out of my mouth, I went, I might need to do more research on that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you just don't know what
Right.
is true anymore. And you're hearing from people's firsthand experiences, but you're also hearing secondhand experiences here and what their friends say and who they're more likely to trust and then take with them. And it really just kind of goes to show what gossip, really, really helps shape who you think you trust.
And I think in this particular script, with all of the different characters and all of the different viewpoints, there isn't necessarily one viewpoint that is the major theme. And
Right.
I think that the audience is going to be able to come away with, a confusing story.
Right.
And they may not be able to draw their own conclusion, or they may have their preconceived conclusions. But you will hear different perspectives from so many different walks of life within Laramie, Wyoming.
Which that is what drew me to the piece, is that what you just said right there, because I didn't want to preach, right? And the fact that I read it with my own bias, but could then, even as reading it with a bias, could open up and be like, okay, that is just a human being with a feeling, and I could have been that human being. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At a point in my life, right?
Right.
Someone I love could still be that human being because of how they've been affected by other events, you know?
And the fact that, I mean, I think that you know, I know it says that you can't, I know like the saying is you can't judge a book by its cover. But the show is not called the Matthew Shepard
Right.
Project.
Exactly.
It's the Laramie Project.
Mhm.
And it is not, it is about a community and what this did to a community, what it says about a community, how it affects, and how the community shaped the events that happened. And so it is not meant to answer your questions about that. It's about presenting the story, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I'm also fascinated by, you said there's 60 characters, right? They did now they did 200 interviews. So did they mesh some people together in or is it all
No,
the-
no, no,
don't
no.
think
People
so.
aren't meshed
Okay.
together.
Yeah.
It's some people were interviewed multiple times, but also
Okay.
they didn't use every interview.
Yeah,
Right.
they didn't use that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
And some
and are they
characters
real
play-
names?
Some they're real names. And,
Yeah.
and some characters have maybe one or two lines, and other characters appear multiple times
Yeah.
in the script.
Yeah, and they are real names. Like
Yes.
that is the point. There is at
Real
least
names, real people.
right. There is at least one I remember where it said it was like anonymous. This person didn't want to use their name.
Right.
Which again just shows that the people felt good about being part of this project, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So what I found interesting, as I said, I drove to Pennsylvania for the weekend. And I'm new to the area. How long am I gonna say that? But I didn't grow up here, so
Until you start giving directions by where the Bennies used to be,
yes.
then you'll truly be home.
Oh, I love that. Okay, I'll wait. But this show brought out a bunch of people to the audition that we had never seen before, and even an hour and a half driving into Connecticut, I was like, oh my gosh, I recognize that town because someone from that town auditioned for the Laramie Project.
Oh, wow.
And it just goes to show that like this is an important piece to a lot of people, that they would be willing to drive an hour and a half with no traffic,
Mhm.
right, to work on the show. So you've done a lot of theater at the Granite. How many shows are you at?
So I'm going to be able to tell you this for the first time. It will be in my bio. This is my 25th show. at the
25th
Granite.
show at the
At
25th anniversary.
yes.
The 25th annual
Yes.
Chris Maxwell.
Yes. So that is my an extra thrill for doing this particular show.
Wow, 25. That's awesome. When did you start?
Oh, don't ask me questions like that. I don't know. It wasn't 25 years ago. I'd have to look at my resume. I lose track of time.
I get it.
But it was probably like in the early to mid 90s. So I was fortunate that I would get to do like one or two shows a year. Sometimes it would be a year.
Did you do shows at the Colonial?
No.
Okay,
So it was always the Granite. It was after it became the Granite. Yeah.
Nice.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is what happened. I saw A Christmas Carol at the when it was the Colonial, and I remember saying to my friend that I was saying, I want to be on that stage. It took me a while to do it, but I'm
That's
finally
awesome.
there, and I love it. It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite stages to be on. It's just
Yay.
a wonderful place to do theater.
Love that. Well, you keep coming back, which is wonderful. And so like as part of the cast, well, so you said when you saw the shows that you wanted to audition for this year, this was definitely
Oh, definitely. This was definite. I saw this show at the URI Theater Department put it on,
Oh.
and that was where I saw the show for the first time, and I was blown away by it. And just and I think in this day and age, in particular, it's refreshing to see young people in the cast that were not alive for this, and to see them interested in doing this show. And in my opinion, this is a story that we can't forget. We have to keep telling it. And I'm fortunate that I was in Diary of Anne Frank, and I feel the same way about that. And it happened too when we had the high school kids come to see that it was their first exposure to the story of the Diary of Anne Frank.
Wow.
And for me, I was thinking, how can something this important not be, being taught in school? And how is it that these kids are just hearing about this? And I feel the same way about Laramie, that there are people that are in their early 20s that do not know the story of Matthew Shepard. And it's an important story to hear. And the way it's told here, where it's not told in a preachy kind of sense, where it's like, this is exactly what happened and this was the outcome, but it's told from a perspective that we're unsure. But it's a story that there's so much that resonates today about what's going on in the world and marginalized communities. And you talked about community. What community here? Is it the theater community? Because this was, if I'm not mistaken, the whole project was the theater community responding to such a tragic event.
Yep.
And it's like, what do we do within our theater community to make sense of this? And this is how they respond, by telling the story. And so I just think it's important to keep the story alive, to go from generation to generation.
This show is theater to me. Like, as far as what a play, there are many different versions of theater. Obviously musical theater, like whatever. But like, if you a play, like what a play can do, and how you can use a play, and how you can have multiple people play multiple things and suspend that disbelief, but really tell a story that needs to be told, and explore topics that make you think, and all of those things. Like, if you look up the definition of theater in My Friend the Dictionary, you would see the Laramie Project. I know I made you smile on that, but I was being serious. But
I don't know if I can quote Brad or paraphrase him, but I believe he said that this is one of the greatest pieces of theater.
I know he definitely feels that way. It's different. It's beautiful. It's I'm really excited that we're getting to do it. You said you saw it at URI.
Yes.
Was it with URI students?
As a matter of fact, URI theater department casts, in addition to students, they do cast community members. And so it was not entirely students, because a woman who had directed me in a previous play was in it.
Oh, nice.
So that it was not just students.
I love the URI theater department.
Yeah.
They do a great job.
They do.
They do a great job. And I think that in a season, like, I love what is happening at the Granite this year for the 25th anniversary, because, like, this show is such a completely different vibe than, you have The Allergist Wife, which is a fantastic comedy, and all of that stuff, and then you have the pandemonium of the full Monty, and then you're bringing it to an emotional level now with this show. And then you're gonna have Rocky Horror, and like, I love it. This is fantastic.
Thank you.
It's great.
For those of you that are not as up on musical theater, Ben keeps quoting 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not working references into this. I appreciate that, but I'm not that smart. I'm like,
also from 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee.
Anyway.
I did drive through Putnam as well, so my husband got to hear a bit of.
Is that on the docket for next year?
It was like, honestly, when I was first thinking about this year, I was like, okay, shows that have the number 25 in it. Spelling Bee.
Yeah.
That's all I can think of. I love Spelling Bee. We'll likely eventually do it. It's a great show. But to your point, during Allergist Wife, my husband leaned over to me during the menage a trois scene. it was like full Monty and now this.
Yes.
What are you doing to this community? And I
Yeah.
was like, anyone who is really stressed out by me right now will be fine when we get to Kiss Me Kate. You know?
Yes, yes. But for now, I mean, the two shows, like the two shows that you started with, you know, you got some people in the audience going like, My Unfortunate Erection.
How do you do this? It's amazing. Now everyone wants to see Spelling Bee.
Yes, now everyone wants to see Spelling Bee, and they're very sad that you're not doing it this year, and they're like, woe is me.
Oh my gosh, you could do this all day. It is spectacular.
I could.
Woe is me.
I could.
Okay, anyway. Where
I speak 6 languages, and they're all references.
Oh.
Poor Chris does not know.
Yeah, I'm missing half the references.
Sorry. Okay, back to Chris. Chris. Okay, so you did Full Monty.
I did the full Monty, yes.
You took a little bit of a break. What? I mean, no,
No, we
because
went,
the rehearsals.
right into
right?
we had a little
Yeah.
bit of overlap.
Oh, you had overlap.
A
Yeah.
little bit, yeah.
Yeah. That was kind of the struggle. We added a show this year, and so the first 4 shows only have 2 weekends, which means that there's just no time for turnover. There's not a lot of time for the casts to, you know, take a break before, if anyone does back-to-back shows, like we had Maureen Noel did Full Monty into the Allergist, The Tale of the Allergist Wife, which was insane. And then
Heather is doing the
Heather, Ken, and Rachel
Yes.
all went from Allergist Wife to Laramie Project.
Yes.
Luckily, none of you are in Peter Pan Jr. So, but it's been a lot of work at the theater. Things will calm down. I say that all the time.
No, they won't.
Things will calm down a little after Peter Pan because there's less of an overlap and more longer shows. Like the summer show and the Christmas show both have 4 weekends. And so there's that, like, you know, if a show is up, it's a little bit of like a reprieve, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so
A reprieve for you, not the people that are like, so, okay. So like when the Full Monty is up, and then, you know, they're performing the Full Monty and then also learning the lines for the Allergist Wife, like that's nuts. Did anybody do all 3 of the first shows?
no.
Oh, that's
No,
good.
No, yeah.
That's good.
Also, you know, I also don't want it to be a theater where the same people are on stage for every show,
Yeah,
because it
for
makes
sure.
it feel like there's no way in.
And that's why I don't act anymore, because I would be the lead in every show.
That is true. That is true. Thank you
And-
for not
Yeah,
making me make the tough decision.
my face would just be on the marquee. There would be 3 banners. The first banner would be the schedule. The second banner would be the schedule, and the third banner would just be. I like that we hold on.
Totally.
We both just did the same pose
we do exactly-
randomly. We just did the exact
exactly
same
what we-
pose, and it's not like a normal pose either.
It's like when you try to take photos of a cast. If I take photos of my family, they like shy away. But if you go to a cast member and say, "Can I take your picture?" Sure.
Yes, that is true. But okay, so actually, good point. I always feel like once a show is up, it's less stressful. Because I've done repertory theater.
Mhm.
You know, I did 10 months at a theater, and I did five or 6 different shows where it would be 3 different shows in 1 week. And then that's just kind of how the schedule would be. But I would always be more stressed about the one I'm in rehearsal for. Do you feel that way?
Yes, and it's funny because when I got involved in theater later in life, I didn't start doing this until I was 35.
Oh.
So that
You hear that, everyone?
yeah, I remember.
You could still be doing
there's-
25 shows
Yes.
just at the Granite.
and feel like you're still young. And still, well, a friend that I was dating at the time, I was in the rehearsal process, and I couldn't understand him when he was describing how, to me, I thought that once the show was up and running, that's where the anxiety was. And and until I started doing it myself, I realized that when the show is up and running, then it's then you're like coasting because
Yeah.
you know it all. But the rehearsal process is such a challenge, and the anxiety going through Tech Week is very real. But once the show is up and running, it is much easier,
Yeah.
much less stressful. And part of it, like with the rehearsal, and this has been happening in Laramie a great deal, where they got to see it. The audience that was there for the, what do you call it again? The
Backstage pass,
backstage
open
pass,
rehearsal. Yeah.
that there's so much that changes in the rehearsal process that there was that particular night. I felt like, oh my God, am I even in the same play? Because he was changing things and it's changing the blocking, but all of it's done to make it better. And it's amazing. And that's why it's good that the audience gets to see that process, to see how it can go from one idea, you try it, and it might not work as well as you thought it would. And then we're going to tweak it. And then we're going to do this different. We're going to do this different. And what ends up being in the final show was not necessarily what you were rehearsing for all of those weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I always tell the cast that I choreograph for, like, this might not work.
Yeah.
It worked in my kitchen.
Yep.
But it might not work on the stage. But that framework was there. Like, from the beginning of that rehearsal to the end was a remarkable change.
Yes.
But you wouldn't have been able to get to that final place without getting that initial framework to see what, because to you it might have felt like the blocking changed a lot.
Yeah.
To me it really didn't. It felt like,
oh, I'm talking from previous nights.
oh, from previous. Okay. Well, yeah,
So from
there's
previous
that.
nights, yes.
There's that. But yeah, and that's,
when you see the Laramie Project and you see us sitting in a seat, that's going to be, we probably sat in 4 different seats.
well,
before
Brad did
was
say that
become the
night. He
final
was like,
one.
this is the first time the chairs have been over there.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's hilarious. But in a director's defense, like, you can't just expect them to be perfect
Yeah.
on their couch in their kitchen.
Absolutely,
right.
yeah.
And so they need to see it all work together. And then during a rehearsal process is also when you learn about the actors, and then you try to play to their strengths.
Right.
And we had that.
And Brad has got such a vision that it's something that I greatly admire, because I don't have that ability to read a script and to be able to visualize it on the stage and be able to, like, have that continuity and to be able to watch the scenes go from here to here to here in his head. And he's able to do that and create this final picture that's, I'm sure, it's going to be great.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
But to watch it evolve it's such an exciting process. I really love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yay. No, I know.
And we rehearsed this in how many different places did we rehearse?
Right.
We had read-throughs in the green room, obviously on the stage. We did it at the 2
Church.
separate rooms in the church, and we did it at the aquarium. And so we rehearsed it in numbers of different places. So every time you go, it's something different.
It is really hard to move from one place to another.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, we'd have a rehearsal studio
Right.
that is the exact exact taped out of the
Right.
stage, and you could just transfer. And that's honestly how I've always worked, right? You have the number sheet across the front of the
Yep.
rehearsal room. And so and then a lot of theaters will also, we've had it at times, might put it back for Kiss Me Kate too, like a numbers at the edge of the stage.
Yep.
So that it's like, where your mark is. And that really helps with big dance numbers.
Right.
And lighting.
Yes.
So yeah. But what else are you working on?
Well, my staple is the Rhode Island Gay Men's Chorus. So that's what
Is that what you're wearing the shirt for?
I actually, well, I wore it because it matched my pants, but
Yeah, this is mostly a here up
yes,
situation.
but yes, I've actually been with Rhode Island Gay Men's Chorus since it began. I lose track of time, but it's this I think is our 29th year. I think next year will be our 30th year we've been around. We used to be the Providence Gay Men's Chorus, but over time we switched to become the Rhode Island Gay Men's Chorus to be much more inclusive. But we also had a major growth spurt in the past year that we were averaging around 25 to 30 members, and this year we've got up to 60 members.
That's amazing.
It's incredible. So we do our seasons in a spring concert and a holiday concert season. And then I will be working also with the Newport Playhouse doing a cabaret show for the first time. I'm so excited about that. And the Shakespeare at the Contemporary. So I'm currently involved with 4 different shows right now.
Look
So
at you.
retirement
Yeah.
is doing very, very well for me.
Do you know Heather Savage?
I do not know Heather Savage.
She was a pianist for the.
Oh,
for the-
Heather. Oh
yeah.
my God. Yes. Of course I know her.
Yeah.
When you said their last name, I was thinking of something. Yes. She was our accompanist. She was
Yeah.
a terrific
She's
accompanist.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. She moved to North Carolina.
Yes.
But yeah, fantastic.
Because we just used to call her Heather. I don't
Mhm.
know with her last
She
name.
was our
Yeah.
she was our accompanist for all of our theater shows since she moved back from Indiana to here, and so she was with us for years. I just
Yeah, we used to do 5 minutes with Heather where she would teach us music theory at the beginning of rehearsal.
Wow.
Because with the Gay Men's Chorus, it's like a broad range of experience, ranging from people who are professionally trained singers to people who are joining because it sounds like fun. And
Yeah.
so that when you're trying to read sheet music, if it's just a bunch of dots on paper, so she started our 5 minutes with Heather, and she would teach us things like rhythm and
we
how to read notes.
we were so lucky to have her. So we had a lot of great accompanists over the years, but when Dave and I went to school in New York for musical theater, we had Broadway pianists in every classroom, and the level of, hey, this is my song, okay, here you go, you know what, no, hold on, we're gonna transpose that for you, like just on little baby grand pianos or
Yep.
uprights, like all that, just instantly, like even though we had fantastic accompanists here, like seeing somebody be able to do that in real time was just like a magic
Yes.
trick. And so Heather's husband John became the pastor at my church in Carolina, Rhode Island, in 2007. And Heather was like, we were doing, ironically, I think Godspell, and Heather was like, Heather started playing the piano at church, and I was like, would you want to do a musical with us? And she was like, yeah, thanks. And then we did auditions, and she was like, I can sight read anything, like no problem. And she did it, and I was just like, Dave and I just looked at each other, and we were like, she's the best
Yes.
we've ever seen here. She's as good as every
Yes.
Broadway accompanist that we had, and there were like legends that were our teachers. They weren't even our teachers; they were just
Right, the
they were
assistants.
just the assistants. And she was as good as all of them, and we were so grateful to have her. And yeah, she was
When
very
Kim Kuda, who was our artistic director of the chorus, the rapport that she had with Heather was incredible. That Kim could give her the vaguest little note or this vaguest little, oh, at the end I want you to do this little da 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 da, and Heather would just be able to translate that into it. And and they had such a good rapport.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, she then she did, after she did our stuff, she also did a bunch of the stuff at Westerly High School for Mr. DeAngelis, and so love Heather and
Yes.
John. They're amazing. They're I was 19, and they did that thing where like a new pastor comes to a church and like gives a gives a sermon and like does it for the day, and then they leave, and then everybody in the church like votes and talks about them when they leave, which is hilarious. And I love that, like I love that Baptist churches do that. And I was 19, didn't ever speak up for anything. And I just was looking around. It was a very small church. There's only like 30, 40 people there. And I just like stood up and went, I'm the youngest person here right now I mean, there's a couple like babies, but I'm the youngest person here right now by 20 years. That is a young family. He is the best guitar player I've ever seen. She plays piano. He just spoke to us like we were all adults in the room, and like, this is fantastic. Please. And they have 2 young kids. Like, can we do this? And it was like the first time I ever stuck my neck out for anything like that publicly. And it was the best thing ever, because they're fantastic friends, and love them. So love John and Heather, and they are doing music and killing it in North Carolina now. So love them. She's so talented. You should meet Heather someday.
Yeah, come back, Heather.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, really.
Steve Spartano wants to know how many characters you play, and do you have a favorite?
I play 4 different characters. Each of them has their own special connection. I would say Doc O'Connor is probably the primary character I play, but
He's not a doctor.
He's not a doctor. No,
He's a
he's
cab
actually a limousine driver. Yeah, and so I would say each of them. And again, this is the important part of this script, is that each character adds something, and whether it's just their own personal connection to Matthew, which is what Doc O'Connor's role is, versus the others that don't have a direct connection to Matthew. They're more describing a little bit about what life was like in Laramie at the time. So Doc O'Connor is the one who had the personal connection to Matthew. So that probably is the one that feels like it's the most significant one. But each of them tells a part of the story.
Yeah. Do you play any characters that have beliefs outside of your own?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I play. Yes. And that's the Mormon minister. I'm not sure if that's the right word for it, but I play a Mormon where I talk about the Mormon church, and that's just definitely not within my comfort zone. And I have to deliver a line that to me just is not something that Chris Maxwell would say, but it's something that a Mormon preacher would say, and basically talking about their religious belief. But it's important to get that, because that's what the fabric of that community was at that time.
For sure.
And it's important for you to play that character as the character and not inflicting any of your personal biases on it, which is difficult, which is really difficult. And that's a lot of the process.
But I will say, for this time, for the first time, and I'm not sure, I mean, I'm sure it's happened before, but to be able to use the F word on the Granite stage is it's something that didn't happen 20 years ago.
That's really funny. I mean, you're not allowed to change scripts. So without asking permission and getting an amendment to your contract. So it does kind of drive me crazy when I hear things like that. Unless there were absolutely just no shows with
that's part of it
verbiage.
too. Yeah.
But and I am not a fan. I don't curse, in real life. So I am not a fan of extraneous vulgarity. If it doesn't serve the story, but if you were playing a real person,
right, and if that's how the person talks,
exactly. But yeah, when there are some less well written shows that will use profanity as like a shock effect,
right? And
I don't like those shows.
No, and I don't think that's the case with this.
No, it's not.
Now, do you like David Mamet? So a Mamet show has never been done at the Granite, I would assume.
Probably not. I've actually never done a Mamet show. I'm trying to think if I've obviously read them, but good question.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I have a Mamet show.
Oh, really?
To do at the Granite. Yeah.
Shock.
It's not one that people have really heard of or
that's exactly what I love to sell, Ben.
Yes. Yeah. No Glenn Ross for this guy. No. Not even Speed the Plow.
so interested.
No, I'm a huge Nathan Lane fan, so I loved the
okay.
show November that they did in 2008. It is not what you would expect from David Mamet,
Huh.
and it's Nathan Lane as it was written for Nathan Lane as the president of the United States
Talk to me.
in an election year right before Thanksgiving, and he's trying to make deals to pardon turkeys, and he's refusing to pardon the turkeys unless people give him money for his presidential library, and it's just ridiculous. The whole thing takes place in the Oval Office, and it was fantastic. It was we saw it on Broadway, the only time I think the only production of it that's ever happened. It was Nathan Lane, Laurie Metcalf, Dylan Baker. Like, it was a fantastic show, but it was definitely one of those things of like, it was just a like a play of the moment, um, and it didn't have the like. It was just a political comedy, and it was very weird for a David Mamet show, so it didn't get the love of that. I've actually seen 3 David Mamet shows on Broadway. That's weird to me because I don't consider myself like a big David Mamet fan. Anyway, the last show I saw on Broadway was Glengarry Glen Ross, though.
Huh.
Yeah, the one with Al Pacino as the Jack Lemmon character, and yeah, it was good. It was good. I would go see the current one with Kieran Culkin and Bill Burr and stuff. That seems fun. Anyway,
the Laramie Project opens in a week and a half.
I told you guys I'm not that smart.
A week and
Okay.
a half, yeah. It's hard to believe. Is it
Yeah.
a week and a
A
half?
week and a half. It opens on Friday of next.
How do you
Yeah.
feel? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good about it because I mean, the director and the cast are incredibly in sync. And from my own personal perspective, if the director doesn't look panicked, then I'm not going to be panicked. And Brad seems as calm as can be.
He is
So
calm.
I think that we face challenges and we overcome them, but by and large, I think he's assembled a good group of people that are telling a story that, in my opinion, needs to be told. And I
Yes.
think they're doing it in a way that is genuine. And if we can be genuine on stage, I think that's that tells the story. And I think the audience is going to walk away they're going to, I don't want to say with their mind blown, but they're going to walk out of there thinking. And I love that. I love the idea of going to theater and being challenged. And I think that from here, you're going to walk out of here and say, okay, what is the real story of Matthew Shepard, and how does it affect me, in my own belief system? And I think that that's what's going to happen. And I think people, I'm going to say, it's a trite expression, but like an emotional roller coaster, because there are going to be very serious and disturbing parts of the plot of the dialogue. But also there are going to be some very touching, very, I mean, the relationship with Reggie Flutie and her mother is just so touching.
It is.
It really is touching. And part of it is just the two characters themselves. Like the actors are doing such a good job portraying it, but the story, the script was there. So I think that from the audience perspective, they're going to come out, hopefully, even if you know the story of Matthew Shepard, you're going to come out with a different perspective, because you've got so many different perspectives that are portrayed in the dialogue.
Awesome.
This is fantastic. By the way, Clarkson Ellis, this is a comment from a little while ago when you said that you can get started when you're 35 and it's complete. He said you can also wait until your 70s to get bit parts. So,
As Don.
thank you, Don. I know I should just say I always read his name off as
that's
it
what
is,
his
so-
name is on the
Yeah.
on the Facebook.
Absolutely, it is. So get your tickets now,
Yeah.
granitetheater.org. I would like to take this opportunity to say something, which is I don't usually plug stuff ever for 321 on here, but we have a new program, not a new program, a new um, feature that you can do for advertising on
Mhm.
321 called Give Back and Grow Together, where if a small business out there is interested in advertising with 321, they can choose to advertise their business and also gift an ad to a nonprofit that they love and support.
Oh, that's
So
fun.
for the price of their ad, they can get an ad for their business and they can help out a nonprofit organization that they love. So
What a great idea, Ben.
Yeah.
it wasn't my idea. Honestly, it was not my idea. But it was definitely one that as soon as I heard, I was like, "Yep, let's do that. Let's do that immediately." I think I made that graphic that evening and had people talking about it that night on the whatever games we were doing. But yeah, that's really cool. So I loved that idea, and I was like, yeah, absolutely, we can make that work, and I figured out how to make that happen with all of the time that we have in like games and shows and all of that stuff, and how to make all of that work and be able to do it. So yeah, so if you are a small business and you want to advertise your show, you can also help out a nonprofit that you love, perhaps a theater,
Perhaps a theater.
perhaps a theater.
Just saying.
So
Nonprofits and you love them.
Right.
yeah, if it's a
exactly.
nonprofit and you love them. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Behind the Curtain with the Granite Theater. And this is the last goodbye.
Bye-bye.
I got one more. I got one more in there for Putnam.
Oh
The last goodbye. It's the last.